Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 5 of the UAE tour. Now we got another exciting sprint stage finish here on stage 5 because there's a trifecta going on, right? Yesterday's pure flat stage, today's a flat stage, and tomorrow's going to be a flat stage. And that's why all these big time sprinters throughout the European peloton, that's why they all come here, is to fight against each other and get their legs ready for the classic seasons. But this is really the world championships of the early season sprinters. And today's not going to disappoint. So if you like sprint stages, definitely tune in. Now, yesterday on stage 4, the comments, Robert left a comment there. He wanted to know what everybody's talking about staying in their lines when we're talking about the sprint finish. And today is a fantastic stage to talk about it because they're 10, 15 wide coming into the last K, the last 500 meters even. So there's lots of line changes going on today. So it'll be easy to discuss and make some comments for Robert here on stage 5. Now, when the racing starts, Thomas de Gent is up the road solo. He had some company from a couple quick-step riders earlier in the form of Joseph Cherney and Louis Vervaeke, but both those riders sat up, and now it's Thomas de Gent going solo, so we know for sure it's going to be a sprint stage. Now I'll show you one of the pictures of Patrick Gemper, and he's with Bora Hansgrohe. He must have crashed somewhere earlier in the stage. He's going to have a not quite a smooth, easy-going stage today because he crashed earlier, which we missed on camera, but then later with about 30 kilometers to go, there's going to be another crash, and it's Trek Segafredo and Green Project that go down hard. And look right there, it's Patrick Gemper, the Bora Hansgrohe rider, and his front wheel is riding over the ankle of the Trek Segafredo rider, followed by a second. Now this is what I'm saying. If you crash early in the stage, doesn't mean you can't crash again. And when it comes to Patrick Gemper, he's going to have a couple close calls here on stage 5 of the UAE Tour, and so will a few other riders because it's going to get dicey at the finish of the stage. Now, as we turn off the big road onto a bit of a smaller road, this is when all of a sudden the calmness out of the peloton starts to deteriorate and things start getting nervous. When I show you the back of the peloton, guess who's sitting back there? It's Ineos Lucas Plapp sitting last wheel with one teammate around him that I can see and nobody else. Now up front, they're going to go through a roundabout, and it's going to be EF Education on the front. We're going to see the rider look back over his shoulder, and he's waiting for the answer now of whether or not if he's going to start lighting this up. EF Education due, the peloton explodes into pieces, and Lucas Plapp is in the back of the peloton, sitting second on the general classification. He got caught napping on stage 5, and Ineos are going to suffer big time for this mistake of Lucas Plapp. Now up front, we see the big teams up there driving in as hard as they can. Next thing you know, there's a split in the front because of the crosswind. Just in front of Quick Step's Tim Miller is the split, and Tim Miller and his teammate are going to have to try to close this gap. We see that those two guys trying to go across the gap, and then guess what? The third Quick Step rider opens up the gap. He swings off to the right, looks back over his shoulder, realizes he's got his race leader, Remco Evenepoel, behind him, and there's nothing he can do. So Remco Evenepoel has to fly around his teammate, Quickstep, and then he comes back to the front, and you see all of a sudden that Remco Evenepoel's on the radio, and he's got to close the gap up to his teammates up there. Now, he will close the gap, and they'll get up to the front. So with Quickstep up there, there's a little bit of dilemma with the front teams. Is it really worth still pulling hard for EF Education, Bora Hansgrohe, and Bahrain Victorious that made the split originally when the Quick-Step riders, as you see in the picture, were back there dangling? It's those three teams on the front. But when it all comes back together with about 50, 60 guys up there, does it make sense to still keep pulling? Well, they kind of slow down a little bit because they get into a headwind. When I show you the pictures in the back of the mad chase from the third, fourth group of the peloton, last group they're trying to get back up to the front, it's Ineos on the front. And luckily for Ineos, they had some help from Trek Segafredo because they're spread out all over the places with one on the front, one in the middle. Luke Plapp lost back there, and then some help from Trek Segafredo. But what Ineos is doing wrong, even at this moment while they're trying to close the gap early when it's split, they're still all the way into the left, and it's a crosswind from right to left. Guys, there's no reason to be all the way in the left and have your teammates that are back there trying to get to the front to help, but they can't because it's crosswind. Eventually, they will move to the right. Ineos will get to the front, and with help from Trek Segafredo, with about 10 kilometers to go, they'll close that gap. Now, Thomas DeHint, he was out there solo. He got caught during all this madness earlier at about 21 kilometers to go. And now everything is back together. With about 4 kilometers to go, you see Lucas Plapp go to the front because he doesn't want to get caught out again. He's up there all by himself, probably because he wore out his teammates. You'll see his fingers come out in the picture like that as he's on the right side of the peloton, but wants to go over the top of the riders pulling on the front. His signal with his fingers popping out like that is saying, hey guys, I want to change my lane. I want to go from this line, I want to go over the top, and I want to get back over here because the wind's still coming a little bit from right to left. That'll get him out of the wind and keep him out of the trouble until we get into 3 kilometers to go. Now, just as we're around 3 kilometers to go, on the left side of the road, all of a sudden there's going to be an island, and we're going to see it's Alpecin, the Koenig rider, Plowright, that has to jump up onto the island. And just behind Plowright back there as he's jumping back on, we see, guess who it is? It's Patrick Gamper back there, Bora Hansgrohe, that's getting a little bit nervous again. Remember, he crashed earlier in the stage. He rode over the wheel of the Trek Segafredo rider, and now he's watching the Alpecin de Koenig rider, Plowright, jumping up on the island, hoping he doesn't crash. And then all of a sudden, that means Patrick Gamper would go down a second time here on stage 5. Now, they stay upright, and then just a little bit further, we're going to start seeing some action as we go into the next roundabout, because on the right side of the road, it's the DSM rider, Luknesen, that has to jump up on the curb because the whole peloton's changing their line, right? Now it's no longer a straight road, so the lines kind of change. As you go into a turn, what's going to happen is when you're trying to hold your line, you want to go with the bend, but when it's a roundabout, you can't because it bends too hard and everyone's going too fast. So it's really the straight line that pushes everyone over to the right side of the road, sends Luknesen from DSM off onto the sidewalk. They come out of the roundabout with 1K to go. Alpecin de Koenig's on the front, and now things are going to get crazy. Now, Lotto had done a great job throughout the stage from about 10 kilometers ago all the way up into this 1K of keeping their sprinter, Caleb Ewan, at the front, but they're starting to lose control now. Caleb Ewan still in a good spot, about the center of the peloton, only a few guys back. He's got Dylan Groenewegen near him. He's got Tim Miller near him. So you know Caleb Ewan with Lotto Soudal still has a shot at winning this stage 5 of the UAE Tour. Now, just after 1K, we start getting into about 800 meters to go. Alpecin de Koenig on the front. He starts sprinting hard, and he'll pull off and change his line all the way from basically the left side of the road to the right side of the road as he's pulling off and getting out of the way. Now, that's what you have to do. You have to change your line if you're the lead out guy. He's trying to get out of the way of everyone behind him, so I'm okay with this. He'll get out, and we'll see the groups coming together. All of a sudden, we got Tudor on the right side of the road. Behind there, we got Quick-Step, and it's Bert van Leerberg trying to lead out Tim Miller here, stage 1 winner at the UAE Tour. Now the peloton's going to start to pull apart with about 600 meters to go. As they start to split apart, look at Dylan Groenewegen in the center of the road. Looks like he wants to follow Tim Miller with Quick Step, and instead he does a last-minute change. He pulls hard and changes his line from the right center of the road and goes all the way to the left. As he moves across the left, it was the Lotto Soudal rider coming back fast. Dylan Groenewegen just barely misses the wheel of the Lotto Soudal rider and comes up hard on his teammate Luka Mezgec. Mezgec is his teammate, realizes it's Dylan Groenewegen, so they don't have to bump. But then all of a sudden, you see Dylan Groenewegen go up to Gaviria, the Movistar rider, and he'll go up and bump a little bit with the Movistar rider that's on Sam Bennett's wheel. Now we start getting down to about 300 meters to go. The first Bora Hansgrohe rider now is pull off, and it's time for Danny Van Poppel to start going to work. And Danny Van Poppel has been an amazing lead-out man since the beginning of last year when they brought him over to Bora Hansgrohe. Now, with Danny Van Poppel on the front, he's getting ready to throw down. On the right side of the road, guess what? Tim Miller's got his teammate Bert van Leerberg throwing down, so you got a drag race on the right side of the road with Quick Step and Bora Hansgrohe on the left. Dylan Groenewegen's not done bumping, though. After he gets done bumping with Movistar's Gaviria, he's going to slot up with about 250 meters to go. He's going to slot up on the Sam Bennett that's sitting second wheel on his teammate that's leading everybody out, Danny Van Poppel. He'll bump a little bit with the shoulders and elbow with Sam Bennett, and then he'll start his acceleration at about 200 meters to go. At the same point in time on the right side of the road, Tim Miller starting his sprint too. Now, Dylan Groenewegen's big-time sprinter with a lot of speed, but he's not going to keep his line straight. So, Robert, pay attention on this final stage, because when we're talking about lines, Dylan Groenewegen's blurring all the lines at the finish of today's stage after he gets done bumping with Sam Bennett for absolutely no reason. He's coming up and starts his sprint. Like I said, he's passing Danny Van Poppel with massive amounts of speed and could hold his line all the way to the finish. But this is the problem with sprinters. They never want to go straight, because if you're holding your line all the way to the finish, going straight from here to there and not moving left or right, the guy behind you, in this case on stage 5, is going to be Sam Bennett, right? He just got done bumping Sam Bennett. Now he's passing by Danny Van Poppel. He doesn't want Sam Bennett to get a draft all the way to the line and just come off the wheels and get a draft all the way to the line. So he's going to change his line, go over the front wheel of Danny Van Poppel. Still legal in my book, and still a brilliant move at this moment from Dylan Groenewegen, at least with the exception of the bumping of Sam Bennett. Now as he comes over the top there of Danny Van Poppel, he's going to keep going to the left because he's got Gaviria that coming by the left side of Danny Van Poppel, and now starting to gain up on the Dylan Groenewegen. Groenewegen goes all the way to the fencing though, so there's no chance of Gaviria to be able to pass him between the fencing and himself. But on the right side, Sam Bennett started his sprint. Sam Bennett's going full gas all the way over to the right side of the fencing. There's Tim Miller over there trying to go full gas too, but he's not making any inroads on the 3 liter. So let's go back to the left side of the road as we see Dylan Groenewegen going strong all the way to the line to cross the finish line first. Take a big win here for Jaco Alula and for Dylan Groenewegen. Second is going to be Gaviria. Third, Sam Bennett. And then you're going to have to go back to the other side to see 5th place where Tim Miller finishes. Trek Segafredo's Emil Limpens, he finishes 4th to round out the top 5 here on stage 5 of the UAE Tour. Now, this was a crazy, chaotic finish. But Robert, when we're talking about holding your line, we see that Dylan Groenewegen broke his line all over the place. Had no problem when we back it up back there at about 500 meters when he's going hard from the center and choosing to go to the left because the road looks pretty open with the exception of the Lotto Sudal rider coming back. But that's going to hold up Dylan himself, not everyone else. But when he comes over and begins bumping with Gaviria and then bumps with Sam Bennett, then goes over the top of Danny Van Poppel, puts Gaviria all the way against the fencing, I got to believe by the UCI rules, not by mine. If you want to go by the old school rules, I'm okay with this because basically nobody crashed, which is the old school rules, right? Absolutely crazy. So nowadays you go by the UCI rules. I don't like it. He's changed his lines too much. The UCI let it happen for Dylan Groenewegen to keep the win. And this is the problem always moving forward. When you change your line, and your line should be straight all the way to the finish once you start your sprint, you really shouldn't be able to move over left or right unless, of course, you have a clear lane where you're not going to overlap someone. But today we didn't see that from Dylan Groenewegen at all. He still gets the win. Jaco Alula gets the big stage victory here at UAE Tour and will add another victory to Dylan Groenewegen's 2023 season. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We got another big, massive sprint stage for tomorrow on stage 6 here at the UAE Tour. So I'll see you guys real soon on the next edition of the Butterfly Effect.